Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Have you heard that expression? Yeah, I've always had issues with it. I find that statement to be kind of simplistic, kind of reductive. I mean, I do what I love. I love podcasting, but it's also a lot of work. And sometimes it's not a lot of fun. I remember back in the fall of 2020, I was working very hard in the podcast business, and I had a burnout. And burnouts are not fun, even when they're caused by doing something that you love. Will Unwin knows what I'm talking about. Will has his own history of burning out while doing something that he loves. And now he owns a small business doing what he loves on the Sunshine Coast. So you're 1 year into owning a business. How are you feeling about that?
Good. Yeah, I'm feeling good about it. A bit proud of myself that I did it and didn't burn the place down. It sounds like a joke, but I actually am proud about that. Numerous things can light fire in here.
Right. Will owns and operates Penco Motorsports. Penco is a motorcycle repair shop in Seashelt. You'll find it not too far from Sailor Soils. Now, I ride a motorcycle, and I love my motorcycle. Her name is Dana Scully, by the way. She has her own Instagram account. So I've always been curious to know what it's like to run a motorcycle repair shop here on the coast. Penco was once owned by Jason Penner. Jason hired Will to manage the shop and fix bikes. And then Jason sold the shop to Will. Now, whether his passion is enough to keep this business thriving, well, that's what we're here to find out. I'm Dominic Gerard, and this is Secret Sunshine, the podcast about the folks who make the most of living on the Sunshine Coast. In this episode, Will Wrench. Will's got some really great merch for his shop, and we're going to do a giveaway in this episode. So if you want to win a great Penco Motorsports hat, here's how it works. At some point in this episode, the interview will be interrupted by a special guest. Figure out who that guest is, then hop on Instagram and follow both Penco and my account. Send us a message with the answer. Listen to the episode, figure out who the special guest is that interrupts the interview, follow me and Penco on Instagram. I put links to both accounts in the show notes, and send us the answer. We'll pick a random winner from any correct answers, and I'll announce the winner of the giveaway in the next episode. Make sense? Great. Let's see how you do. Now, let's get into Will's story. A story which begins in a very painful way. I find it a little bit interesting that a pretty debilitating injury sent you into a career where people who don't ride are always talking about the injuries in motorcycling, right?
Right. It's funny. I knock on wood, but I know a few people who have been injured riding motorcycles, but not as many as people talk about. Like, you can safely ride motorcycles out there, and step one for safely riding motorcycles is making sure your motorcycle works the way it should work. And I see it all the time with bikes. I'm like, I can't believe you rode this bike here.
You've told me that very thing last summer.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. You're like, your brake pad's dead. Don't ride to Calgary with that thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you for the advice. I will get that fixed right away.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's step one in safe riding for sure.
Yeah. Why are you a motorcycle mechanic?
Always loved motorcycles, and my interpretation of them has always been riding them, hanging out with people who also like riding them, and working on them. And it was my path of learning how to work on them that led me to this career. I always knew I wouldn't necessarily be able to afford to pay for someone to fix my bike. So if I wanted to do it, I better do it myself. And the opportunity came up for me to go to school for it. And I took that and snowballed from there.
Yeah, so what happened?
So I actually ended up hurting my back. I was just playing rec basketball. Took a shot, landed funny, knew something was a little off. And then, went to the gym afterwards and stretched, thinking, I pulled a muscle or something like that. But I remember I woke up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and fainted on the bathroom counter and knocked over a whole bunch of stuff. And I couldn't do anything. It was crazy. I had to take an ambulance to the hospital, and these herniated discs are wild. And you get a whole bunch of sciatic pain down your leg. And I still deal with some of that to this day, nowhere near as bad. So it didn't work for 6 months. And then through the recovery for that, I kind of stumbled upon the BCIT Foundations program, which is a 6-month program. Did that and went straight into the industry at Burnaby Kawasaki before I was even done the course. Did a year there. And then from there, I went to Trev Dealer Harley Davidson. And part of the reason I did that jump, not only because I like Harleys, but Trev Dealer is really great training programs for their apprentices. They have their own in-house stuff, and then they send you up to northern Alberta for training in the wintertime, which is kind of interesting. You're only there for a week or two, but it's crazy cold up there.
Right.
It's just so funny to have motorcycle training in like the coldest place ever.
Doesn't make any sense.
No. So yeah, that was great. And they got your red seal and all that. And then took a year off from the industry. It's a hard industry sometimes. It's hard to make money in it. And it took me a long time to figure that out.
What made you move to the coast?
Well, I grew up in Vancouver, lived there my whole life. And I was finding myself spending all my free time out of the city because the city was just a lot. And I just found it exhausting. And then the opportunity to move here came up. And I really love the coast because I do have a life in the city still. And it's close enough that you can go down for a weekend or the rare time I've gone down for dinner and come back. I'm not going to do that very often, but on a bike, it's actually enjoyable.
Yeah. So you show up here in October 2020, I think?
Yeah, it would have been October 2020.
How long before you land a job in this shop? Because this shop used to be owned by Jason.
Yes. Jason owned the shop. I believe I came in not long after I moved up here. I'd taken a year off in the motorcycle industry. Still wasn't able to figure out how to make it work for my life. Came in maybe to Jason and had a conversation with him in the winter. But if you know anything about the motorcycle industry, it'd be pretty rare to find a shop that would hire you in the middle of winter. Yeah. It's very slow, especially in a small town like this. I
wonder why.
Yeah. And I came back to Jason must have been March 2021, kind of reached out again. And he was like, started working here April 1st, 2021.
So you took a 1-year sabbatical from being a motorcycle mechanic as you found your way here on the coast. Mm-hmm. Was that sabbatical motivated by you were doing a job that maybe you weren't enjoying as much, or was it just...
I would say I wasn't enjoying the industry that much. And financials were part of it. Yeah. But I just couldn't see a sustainable way to make that work for my life.
So you go from being a kid loving motorbikes, being in your 20s loving motorbikes, learning to wrench them a little bit yourself, then becoming a full-on Red Seal motorcycle mechanic, and then getting to a place where you're like, I don't think I can make this work. That must have been kind of a bummer.
Yeah, I guess it was, but leaving the industry didn't mean I had to leave motorcycles. And the one thing that I see a lot in the motorcycle world, and it's something I really enjoy about the motorcycle world, is like people's garages. Right. And quite often, quite a few friends who do this, who all share a space, and they all wrench on their bikes to some capacity, and some build full bikes, and that becomes a cool little fun hangout spot. So that still existed in my life.
Okay.
I went through a time, actually leaving Trev Dealer.
Before coming here.
I went through a time where I was kind of, riding wasn't that interesting anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it's not that I hated it or anything like that, but I didn't really want to ride. It wasn't like I was commuting in Vancouver on my motorcycle, which isn't great riding, stop and go traffic and all that. And I ended up having to sell the bike I had, which I loved. I spent a lot of time building it to fit me and for what I did. Yeah. And which is fine. That happens sometimes. So I sold that and actually didn't have a bike for like a year.
What kind of bike did you sell for those who do like bikes?
It was a 2004 Electric Glide, which is a Harley touring model.
Pretty big bike.
Yeah. Well, I had to kind of build to fit me.
Yeah.
And did tons of stuff. I actually raised it a little bit, so it was even bigger than it normally would be. Mm-hmm. And I love that bike, and it's almost come back into my life a couple times. It's been sold twice now, and
you're tracking it.
The guy called me, and I was like, I talked about him for like an hour because I did a ton of work to that bike. Yeah, and work that you would never do to that bike if you were paying a shop to do it, because it would just not make financial sense.
Did you ever figure out why at that time you just weren't feeling it?
I think it was just what's the word I'm looking for here? Exhaustion from the industry, I think.
Some burnout.
Burnout. Yeah, that's the word. That's the word I was looking for, was burnout. And it took this new bike to actually kind of re-inspire me to ride. And the main reason why my new bike, new to me, interests me is because I changed how you operate it compared to a traditional bike. My bike has a foot clutch, so you use your left foot as your clutch, and you shift with your hand, which is a very kind of older Harley style of.
The order's flipped, basically.
Yes, yeah, the order's flipped a little bit, but it changes how you ride because you have to take a hand off the handlebar, and there's changes how you can brake or come to a stop, or that you can't put your foot down on the ground on the left side. So that there's some risk. I actually almost put it into a lake up here when I was learning how to ride.
Oh, God.
I didn't. It was fine. I've since fixed that problem. And it was like learning how to ride again. And I think just that whole process kind of re-inspired me. And I think now that I'm even thinking about it, I think just being here, the Sunshine Coast in itself is such a automotive motorcycle gearhead community per capita. It's kind of crazy how many bikes are here.
Is it?
Oh yeah. Oh, it's wild. There's a lot of bikes up here for how many people there are, for sure.
I like that you said that, because one of my driving questions here, why I wanted to talk to you, is how can the Sunshine Coast sustain a motorcycle shop?
The way I'm dealing with it is kind of taking on larger winter projects that kind of take a while to work on. Mm-hmm. It's not as simple as coming in, changing oil and leaving. And those kind of jobs kind of kept me going. And it's more than sustainable up here. There's other shops up here now. Coastal Motorcycle Repair is one. And that's Harrison Sleep, and he does great work. So it's to the point where I'm so busy now that I actually send work to him as well, or work that I think he would be really good with. So yeah, there's more than enough motorcycles on the coast to sustain a business.
My bias was, I love that this place exists, but it must be hard to keep it going, because we're a much smaller community here. But what you're telling me is that, like, actually there's a lot of bikes here. You just don't necessarily see them all the time. And therefore that's why you're able to make something work here. Yeah.
And I think I'm really fortunate to have been in this industry for long enough now that I have a lot of friends and customers outside of the Sunshine Coast, which is very helpful as well. So I have bikes being sent to me from the city.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of the...
They'll ship a bike to the coast?
Yeah.
Because they want Will to work on it.
Or they can't find anyone in the city to work on it. But yeah, I like to think it's for me too.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the pink bike over there. That's from Powell River. And then the bike there is from Vancouver as well. And they're the cities, to maintain a business in the city, you kind of have to be working on newer things. A lot of shops don't work on older stuff anymore because they take a lot. It's not that they're not able to, it's that they can't function as a business if they do that.
Yeah. So
I'm quite happy to work on the older Harleys, and they come to the shop quite a bit now.
How is the relationship between a motorcycle mechanic and a customer different from an automotive mechanic and a customer?
The need of the vehicle is one, that's for sure. Motorcycles, for the most part, are toys. Typically, if you bring your car to the shop and you were without your car for half a day, that's like a big deal. Whereas you're without your bike for half a day or a week, it's far less of a big deal.
Yeah. You're right that a motorcycle is a toy, unlike a car. Like a car is not a toy. But I also think like a toy is a bit pejorative for what a motorbike is, right? The relationship someone has with their bike must translate to the relationship they develop with you. Yes,
and that is actually something that I really enjoy, getting to do the customer interaction personally and getting to work on the bike personally. I think there's a lot of value in that. And I think that's something that's changed drastically in even the motorcycle industry. You go to a bigger shop nowadays and it's just a game of telephone where you tell the service advisor what you want. The service advisor tells the tech what they want. The tech does what the tech does. And then hopefully it's right afterward. Whereas here I get these firsthand interactions, which I love. And you can see how just happy someone is. And once in a while I'll call a customer after a big job, and it's pretty great to hear how happy they are with the bike afterwards. And that puts a smile on my face. I enjoy hearing about that.
Yeah. Without asking you to be an expert in everything else, I wonder if that intimacy you have here at this shop on the coast is what makes it sustainable here and unsustainable elsewhere.
I can't speak for elsewhere, but I think, or even another business, because I don't think everyone would want to operate that way. But for me here at Penco, I think that's what makes it sustainable. Even those larger projects throughout the winter, you're talking with customers weekly and develop a relationship with them. And that's definitely part of it. Small businesses on the coast are I think, unique to the Sunshine Coast. And I think you can really thrive up here operating and doing a job or a career that you're passionate about and still make a living, compared to, say, Metro Vancouver. Overhead's going to be less on the coast with rents, leases. That's going to be a bit less, and that can kind of lead you to charge still less than the city, but still make profit yourself. And that's something a realm that I'm kind of trying to stay in there, whereas my shop rates are less than the city, offering better service. And I don't think I could operate this specific shop the way it's operated if I was in Vancouver. I don't think that would be possible.
No.
I think the overhead of the lease would remove all profits. And then you would be forced to increase volume And as you increase volume, you create disconnect between staff and customers. And it becomes a business instead of something you're passionate about. And I definitely want to avoid doing that, hopefully.
Sounds like burnout territory.
Sounds like burnout territory.
You.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not so much even burnout, more just like a disconnect and a level of not caring at a certain point.
Well, you lose the point, right? You lose the plot a little bit.
Yeah.
That thing we talked earlier about, he even got to a point where he didn't even want to ride anymore.
Exactly. That definitely be part of it. And you also then relying on people making not much more than minimum wage to be an expert in something that they've only done for 6 months.
Right.
And I think from that, I took away, I would just rather do it all myself. Not saying that I don't make mistakes, as I do, and I'm way harder on myself than anyone else.
Are you?
Oh, yeah, it's bad.
What does that look like?
Is there a dent in the side of this toolbox somewhere, I think, probably? I think there is.
That's in your quiet time, right?
Yes, I don't do that in front of other people. So maybe I should have someone else here, because I should do that. I had a friend working with me last year, and he kind of could see it coming sometimes, and he would turn on the classical music to try to calm me down. So if you come in here with this classical music on, I'm either working on an engine or I'm in a bad mood.
Or both.
It could be both. Do you mind if I go grab a coffee?
Go grab a coffee.
Yeah. Is that right? Do you want one?
No, I'm good. Hey, so let's give Will a minute to make himself a cup of coffee. And while he's doing that, I want to tell you about a motorcycle adventure that Dana Scully and I are about to go on. We're leaving for a 2-week solo motorcycle trip all the way down to Los Angeles and back again. It's one of those bucket list things, a trip I've been planning to do for years. It's also the longest bike trip that Scully and I have ever done. It'll be a bit of a marathon. And I'll be posting about the trip as much as I can. But I'll be doing most of that from Scully's own Instagram. So if you're into road trips, motorcycles, and the Pacific coastline, find a link in the show notes and come find me online as I ride down and back up again. Okay, so Will's got his coffee, so let's get back to the interview. And don't forget, keep an ear out for the answer to that merch giveaway, yeah? So for 3 years, you work here as the main mechanic, the manager of the space, right? Under Jason.
Yes. Yeah.
What's the one day Jason comes over and says, I'm selling the shop?
He did that my first year.
Well, he already had thoughts about
it. He had it listed for sale at some point, and he was very forward with me about it. Jason was super professional, and not only did I learn a lot of technical knowledge from Jason,
yeah,
a lot of business operation, customer service I learned from Jason as well, because my previous customer service experiences were in the bar world, which are not always the same.
A little different.
A little different.
Yeah.
So he, in that first year, I think we even had the conversation. I was like, do you think I could do this? And he's like, he told me no in the first year, which is...
Oh, you asked him if you...
I was curious. I wasn't asking at the time. Like, I'd never really wanted to own a small business. That was never something I set out to do in my life. Uh-huh. So that was more of a curious question than anything else. And then you can fast forward to 3 years later. And I think he really wanted me to. And he, sold me the shop for a very good deal. And which I'm still very grateful for this day.
Yeah.
And he still actually has keys to the shop, so he can come in here whenever he needs to. And he's always very polite and lets me know beforehand. And
right.
But that was part of the purchasing. I was like, can you please still treat this like it's yours? And even the way I operate sometimes, it's like, oh, what would Jason do here? Is, I better do this because Jason would be mad if it wasn't clean or something like that. And I don't do it because he wouldn't actually be mad. I do it as what would Jason do in this situation? Because I thought he ran such a good business.
You said that owning a small business was never in your life plan. So what the hell happened?
I wanted to stay in the industry. I wanted to continue working with bikes. I wanted to continue living on the coast. And I was like, I can't see myself doing anything else. So taking over the business was just the next logical step that actually felt right. And
what part of the transition was anywhere around, I'd say the words terrifying or second doubts or...
all of the responsibility, every single aspect of it, even having the lease. I've actually never had a lease in my own name before this business. It felt like a very adult move. And even though I'm, 35, 34 at the time, I'd never done that before. So it was a lot of learning, but I just had so much support through the whole thing. Jason and his wife, Leanne, helped me out through the first 6 months quite a lot, especially Leanne with all the bookkeeping stuff, paperwork. And Jason had created such a good operation for everything. I still run the shop or run the business the same way he did.
So pretty soft landing.
And even for customers, a lot of customers thought I owned it already, which I was surprised about.
Yeah.
And that was part of it too. Like I didn't really want customers to experience a change.
Yeah.
And it probably isn't until this year when things are going to look a little bit different with new branding and all that stuff.
Well, it's been a year.
It's been a year. And I'm feeling things naturally change as well. Not even that I'm trying to change it.
Yeah.
Seeing a lot more Harleys, which is kind of strange, which I love. Operation-wise, I think things are going well. But, now a year later, I'm trying to find that area with the business that works for me in my personal life and not getting burnt out. And that's kind of the challenge now, is finding out how to make it operate that works for me.
Yeah, we're back at the point now where you own this business, you wrench at this business, you have really strong relationships with the people whose bikes you work on. It's got to be a challenge to separate work from life because it's got to be all around you.
It is. It really is. I'll have a conversation, and this is like 10 o'clock at night as I'm watching TV, and they'll order parts or they'll request something or something, and I'll have to remind myself to actually complete the process when I get back to the shop the next day.
Right.
And nowadays you have to go through your Facebook app or your messenger on Facebook and then Instagram account, whether it's personal or business, and then your email. So that you also have to remember to check each one of those all the time.
Yeah.
And that I enjoy it because I do enjoy talking about motorcycles and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's probably not good to be doing that 10 o'clock at night for myself.
To each their own, but It sounds like you don't have much time to totally turn off. How often do you ride just for yourself now?
This July, I'm going to be riding quite a lot, which I'm looking forward to. And this will be the official telling everyone that I'm only open 4 days a week, July this year.
So you're forcing yourself to book time.
Booking time is the important part for the longer rides, obviously.
Do you have the luxury, given what you do for a living and who you service, to say, I can't help you, I'm riding? Like, I would think that...
I will do that this year.
I would think that someone with a bike would understand that a lot more. I can't help you, I'm going for a drive in my convertible is a different answer than, sorry, yeah. I'm getting on my bike and I'm hitting the road. Like,
motorcycles attract a lot of different kind of people, and some people absolutely get it and are super supportive. Some people think of it more as a business choice and are like, why would you make that decision? That's not the right business choice. So it's not all about business.
Say more about that. It's not all about business.
Yeah, motorcycles definitely are not all about business. The beauty of motorcycles is you're forced to be in the present with motorcycles. There's a lot of dangerous situations when you're riding, and if you're not in the present and focus on what you're doing, that's when accidents can happen.
Yeah.
So it kind of forces you to forget about business and enjoy what you're doing. Even when I mentioned earlier how I have my bike set up to operate, I still am challenged by that to this day. So that also helps me maintain being in the present there. And if you don't, at worst, bad accident. At best, you're going to embarrass yourself. Right. Which I do all the time. You pull up to the stoplight there in front of Batch 44 and stall my bike while I'm trying to leave it. I'm like, I swear I know what I'm doing.
Trust me. Call me on Monday. That is kind of a neat thing, right? Because you've got your own bike here. It's up. You're slowly rebuilding it. It looks like. So that tells me that when you're not here working on people's bikes, in your downtime, you're still working on bikes. It happens just to be yours.
Yes. And I wish I'm still, this is all always a work in progress, but I'm still trying to learn how to do that in a way I enjoy, because sometimes there's just time. I don't have a ton of time.
Yeah.
Which is also small business ownership. I've never had my time be so valuable to me at the moment. Right. So I find myself, I don't enjoy working on my own bike. I end up just rushing it, which I don't want to do.
Yeah.
So trying to manage that a little bit is hard as well. And part of that is a business choice too. Even my own bike, I'm like, I should have a really cool bike that I'm proud of that I can show off work on.
Yeah. Sounds like we got to wrap up this interview. Your publicist is barking a little bit.
He wants a belly rub or just attention.
Or all of the above.
Or all the above. But bikes, sorry.
No, this is great. This is totally great.
Can I bring my mic down here
bring
to the dog? So
I can, bring your mic down to the dog.
I'm going to bring the mic down to the dog so I can still talk and pet Boone.
So what's the next year going to look like for you?
The next year.
Hopes and dreams. What are you thinking about?
In the next little while, I think the way the shop works is we're working really well for myself and the community, hopefully. And
you like what you got?
I like what I got. I guess I'm a bit of a creature of habit. I don't really want change all the time. especially after the last year of being my first year owner in the business. It has been a lot. And I would like to kind of find a way to enjoy my free time a little bit more.
You're putting your foot down.
Yeah, a little bit. I think that's going to be the big change, hopefully, is that I find a way to make this work for myself a little bit better while still providing the community with the services they need.
And you think that being here on the coast gives you that opportunity more than anywhere else? That's your theory anyway.
That's my theory anyway.
Yeah.
The coast is a unique place, and it's a lot of things can work really well up here if it's done properly.
That creature of habit thing, is that why not change the name when you took over the business?
One, out of respect. Not that Jason would have been upset that I would have changed the name or anything like that.
Sure.
The coast also likes consistency.
Yeah. Okay.
Penco it's a great name. It's the classic last name with co being company at the end. And I thought, I'm actually not good at naming things anyways. I know Boon Bob is a great name for my dog.
Boon Bob's a great name for your dog. Yeah.
That's the best thing I've ever named in my life. Outside of that, I'm not good at that. And Penco's been working. It always has worked. Jason worked really hard to get to work, and I'm able to do what I'm doing now because of the hard work he put in. If anything, I feel guilty. I'm still using his name.
He might make you change it.
Yeah, he might say something at some point, which if he did, I would do it.
When you do have those moments where you're on your bike and you're actually just riding by yourself and you're away from the shop and you're away from the tools, what's the feeling these days, given where you are in life?
I appreciate it more.
Do you?
I do. Yeah, I appreciate that time away from this aspect of motorcycle riding. There's always something waiting for me, which never used to be the case when I was managing the shop. I would never think about answering email or reading email when I got home. Like, they never needed to. And now it's the end of my day, 6 o'clock comes around. I have to end the day. The day doesn't just end. I have to end it.
Right.
And I think riding my motorcycle now forces me to do that. It's a great opportunity to not pay attention to any of that.
Yeah. Because you got to pay attention to the road.
You should. Yeah, you should do that.
It's very helpful.
Yeah.
Will Unwin is doing what he loves, and he's working most days of his life. He's the owner and mechanic at Penco Motorsports in Sechelt. That's the end of the road for this episode of Secret Sunshine, and if you know the answer to this episode's riddle, well, follow us both on Instagram and send us a message with the answer. We'll pick one of the correct answers at random, and I'll announce the winner of the giveaway in the next episode. Links to our profiles are in the show notes, as well as a link to my motorcycles profile, should you want to follow along as Dana Scully and I ride our way down and back to Los Angeles. I'm Dominic Gerard, the host and producer of Secret Sunshine. The original show theme is composed and performed by Max Henry. I'm now about to go pay attention to the road. The next episode of Secret Sunshine drops in 3 weeks. See you then.